Hey VC, welcome to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well. Tony here. Tony's LPs are us. This little segment is about George Harrison's Record Store Day release, Be Here Now. It's a double A side. Beck is doing it, his cover of Be Here Now on side A, and George Harrison, Be Here Now, is doing it on side A. All proceeds from the sale of this record will go to the Material World Foundation. So if you contribute buying this record, it goes to a good cause. Now, this was Record Store Song of the Year. Now, Record Store, the people from Record Store, the Record Store organization, choose a Record Song of the Year every year. And where they get that is from input from record stores, record companies, record labels, probably distributors, the artists themselves. So they chose what I think is a great song, especially for this year, which is a sleeper for me. This was originally from Living in the Material World, George Harrison's record of 50 years ago. It's been reissued last year as a 50th anniversary. And there's Friar Park, the 10-acre estate that George bought and refurbished. And this estate was built by an attorney. It was an old monastery. But in 1898 or so, Sir Frankie Crisp, a solicitor, who they say was a cross between Walt Disney and Lewis Carroll. So if you can imagine, this guy was pretty eccentric and must be pretty creative. But Be Here Now is kind of an inspiration from this estate, from Frankie Crisp, and also from a yogi, an American yogi, American spiritualist, if you call him that, Ram Dass. And Ram Dass means servant of God. That's Ram Dass. Ram Dass was an American. I have his name here, his birth name somewhere. It's kind of like Smith, right? But Ram Dass wrote a book about 1970 and 1971. I remember seeing the book. I had a lot of friends that were into the Beatles solo stuff, especially Harrison. Harrison was very spiritual. He did his own thing. Harrison had a unique way about him. He had so many songs built up. He wasn't able to release on the Beatle records. He usually got a slot, 1 or 2 out of the 10 or 12 that were on a Beatle record. So he had quite a buildup of records, and most of those great songs were released on this album, All Things Must Pass. Here's one of the reissues. And on All Things Must Pass, there's actually a ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll. So if you know that song, Let It Roll, that's inspired by Sir Frankie Crisp. And when you listen to that, the chorus, you could hear it chant, Sir Frankie Crisp, which I didn't really pick up until I started researching Be Here Now. So Be Here Now has its genesis with this estate, the estate that Harrison later lived in, later recorded in. He did so much there, and that's Friar Park. So Ram Dass wrote, "Live in the moment rather than dwelling on the past or focusing on what hasn't happened yet." Now, that's inspiration enough for Be Here Now. Be Here Now on this record is remixed for the 2024 mix, and that was on the 50th anniversary of Living in the Material World. Here's the back cover that has a beautiful watercolor, and the front is a beautiful watercolor, but it's the Harrison side. This is the Beck side. I'll show you what the record looks like. It's really a good recording. I really love it. It's so delicate. It's so spiritual. The Beck, I'm not going to really review the Beck aspect of it. Beck is a talent in his own right. So 45 RPM, so it really shines, really sounds good. But the delicacy and spirituality of Be Here Now, the George Harrison version, is what I'm going to talk about today. Why they chose Beck's cover, I'm not sure. Interesting to note that in 1975, on an album called Earthbound, the great Fifth Dimension did it in a prologue Be Here Now song on Earthbound. And I just listened to it on YouTube. It's a spacey, psychedelic arrangement that I really like better almost better than the George Harrison arrangement. It jazzes it up a bit. They've got that great harmonies. So if you get a chance, it's on the Earthbound record, which I've never seen. It probably sold very poorly. I have a lot of the early Fifth Dimension records, which I love. They're a great band. They blend it, soul, rock, gospel, harmonies. It's just that whole era. This is the age of Aquarius was their massive hit. So they did a version of Be Here Now. I'm not sure other folks did a version of Be Here Now, but Be Here Now is just a great song. It's haunting. It's sweet. It's relevant today. If you don't know the song, you probably know it from Living in the Material World, but I had Living in the Material World and listened to it, I would say hundreds of times, and I really didn't understand that song, although I did remember the Ram Dass book that has that passage in again, which I'll read. Live in the moment rather than dwelling on the past or focusing on what hasn't happened yet. So if you think about that and you think about the lyrics to Be Here Now, which is actually so poignant, and it also could reflect on what Harrison thought about his time with the Beatles. Everyone was dwelling on the Beatles. The Beatles had just broken up a few years, 4 or 5 years prior to that, but they were in their, shattered process for the last couple of years before they actually broke up. Given all the history of Let It Be, the White Album, Abbey Road, how they were all fragmented in a way, doing their own thing. And George never got a chance to do his own thing at the same level that McCartney and Lennon did. So we're lucky enough to get a lot of those tunes with a great stellar lineup from All Things Must Pass. And up here, we have an original All Things Must Pass with the poster and all that good stuff in there. So probably one of my favorite Beatles solo records, and everyone's, I believe. It's a triple record. It was the first triple record of new material about 6 months after the first triple rock record with all new material, I should emphasize. But the first one with previous release material and live material, of course, was Woodstock. Woodstock was a triple record trifold. This is a triple record box set. So for that to come out, pretty hard to believe that this is the first triple rock album. And then we had Yes songs and, etc. So there's a much more, but still the triple album is a rarity. You have a lot of anthologies from Motown. But this was the first one with new rock material. So that's All Things Must Pass. And the thread to All Things Must Pass to Be Here Now is, of course, Friar Park, the estate, which Harrison lived on, bought, refurbished, 10 acres, built in originally a monastery built in 1898, I believe, by Sir Frankie Crisp. Now, the connection to Sir Frankie Crisp is interesting because Sir Frankie Crisp carved in a clock tower. If you could believe this place had a clock tower, okay? So this is about time. It's about space. It's about how we deal with the future, how we deal with the past, how we dwell on the past. Now, this record, Be Here Now, is very inspirational. If you read the comments on the YouTube playing of the 2024 reissue, which is what this Record Store Day is mixed from, I believe. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And of course, these are just my opinions. But I think that George's past with the Beatles, his present, what he was looking forward to. He was trying to get out of the past. He definitely didn't want to go back and talk about the Beatles. He didn't want to be a Beatle. I think he was one of the first Beatles that didn't want to be a Beatle, to be honest with you. Maybe Ringo always loved being a Beatle. Paul probably always loved being a Beatle, but I don't think George always loved being a Beatle. And it's probably because he was overshadowed by the tremendous songwriting composers that were up there with the top of the top, from Tim Panally on down to classical music, and that's McCartney and Lennon. If you remember on the first record, Please Please Me. It was McCartney and Lennon, not Lennon and McCartney. But people out there, Beatle people, you would know that history better than me. So Ram Dass was a spiritual yogi, an American yogi that changed his name to Ram Dass, servant of God. So to recap, Earthbound, there's a great version on Earthbound, the Fifth Dimension record. I want you guys to listen to that. Be Here Now, we'll go over the lineup before I talk about another connection from Friar Park. Now, Klaus Vorman was on stand-up bass. Jim Kelter, the great Jim Kelter, was on drums. Nicky Hopkins was on piano. Gary Wright was on organ. And Harrison was on lead vocal, guitar, acoustic guitar, and sitar, and also backing vocals. So it's a beautiful blend. And the remix actually brings out the delicacy of the guitar from what I could gather when I reviewed it and compared it to this record, the original with Be Here Now. And like I said, it's kind of a sleeper. It's still relevant today. We should always appreciate what we have in the present rather than what we had in the past or what we may have in the future. Be here in the present. And I'm going to read what was carved into the clock house at Friar Park by Sir Frankie Crisp, who again was an eccentric attorney, solicitor in England that was a cross between Lewis Carroll. You all know Lewis Carroll, and of course Walt Disney. All us Americans know. So it was an Englishman, and it was a American. He was a cross, and I think Harrison spoke about him frequently at Friar Park as if he was still alive, as if he was still on the grounds. And I'm going to read what he wrote. This was a poem. This was etched into the clock tower and inspired, I believe, I heard Harrison discuss it in an audio interview, which is available on YouTube. This is the poem that Sir Frank Crisp, an attorney, prior owner of George's UK estate, Friar Park, engraved into a wall on the property. And that was actually the clock tower. So think about it, that clock tower. Let me see if we could see it here. There's a photo of the grounds here. Maybe not here, but I'm sure somewhere there's a clock tower. Maybe I'm missing it. But this is a cool picture. You have Ringo here. Looks like, Gary Wright. It's just, and there's a Jaguar. It's a baby carriage. Harrison's in color. Everyone's in black and white, as it should be, right? So this was the etched poem into the clock tower. Past is gone, thou canst not that recall. Okay? Past is gone, thou canst not that recall. Future is not, may not be at all. Future is not, may not be at all. Present is, improve the flying hour. Present only is within thy power. Okay? Now, when I read The Flying Hour, I went back and revisited Flying for a Magical Mystery Tour, and that could have been an inspiration. Then I went back and I read and I listened to the ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll, and there's no connection between, as far as I know. I didn't read the lyrics, I listened to it. So I'm going to read the poem again because it's really cool, and it's amazing that Ram Dass, who Harrison is into because of his spirituality, his yogiism, or whatever his term is. Past is gone, thou canst not that recall. Future is not, may not be at all. Present is, improve the flying hour, which the flying hour, I assume, is time, the present. The time flies, the flying hour. Present only is within thy power. So you can only manipulate and work on what is present. So if you think about this, it's a great song of the year. Think about the present. The future's there. You have to plan for the future. But the present is where you could really set the future, right? You can't go back. And I was reading a lot of comments on the official YouTube video of Be Here Now. And go out and buy Be Here Now, this 12-inch 2A-sided, if I call it that correctly, 45 RPM record store day. I'm not sure how many. I think only 2,000 were made. So I was pretty happy to get it at Spin Me Around. Actually, Don, I'm not sure if there wasn't many left. I'm not sure how many they had, but they had. I may have gotten the last one. I'm not really sure anymore. I have to go back and check my video. I did a video, but it's a haunting, relevant, joyful tune, and it's inspired so many people. It's emotional. When you read the comments, a lot of people that had tragedies recently in the past, they said that song kind of puts it in perspective that you might have to let go of what occurred if it was a bad thing or an opportunity missed. Let that go. Focus on the present. Don't focus on the future as well, but the present is what you could actually change. The present is what we live in and enjoy it. So it's all about time, and like the poem says, the flying hour. So Ram Dass wrote, live in the moment rather than dwelling on the past or focusing on what hasn't happened yet. It's amazing that Ram Dass and this estate that, who knows what the search was for Harrison to buy Friar Park. It was probably a deal. It was beautiful, 10 acres, somewhere outside of London, I imagine. I'm not sure of the county. But just think, he had actually found a property that was owned by someone probably as spiritual and in a way a genius as Harrison was. Because for someone to carve out that poem that I believe he wrote, I couldn't find anyone that was the author of that poem, so I assume it was Sir Frankie Crisp. And to see that he was inspired by Ram Dass and Frankie Crisp, and Ram Dass writes what I just live in the moment rather than dwelling on the past or focusing on what hasn't happened yet. Just think about that for a moment, and I think we'll all feel better. And there's a lot. We all have a lot to be thankful for, especially in the vinyl community. If you all got what you want for Record Store Day or for Christmas or for whatever, but don't dwell on what records you didn't get, on Record Store Day, or what records you thought you had in your possession but just couldn't, secure it, like a RL or a butcher cover, or I still have memories of, I was in estate sales and I was 1 meter away from a original Miles Davis, kind of blue, or maybe that yesterday and today I missed was a butcher cover from some estate sale, or maybe that Zeppelin 2 that someone else got before me. I didn't even get to look at it. An original Zeppelin 2 may have been an RL. So there's all that. I still have those. That's what I think about. That's just the fun part of this channel, talking about records. But there's a lot of things in the past that I wish that didn't happen, but I'm not going to dwell on those. And that's what this song is about. Be Here Now. And of course, the Beck version is beautiful. If you like Beck, very delicate. I really like the Fifth Dimensions version. It's very psychedelic. It has a lot more instrumentation in it. Has those great harmonies. Billy Davis and Marilyn McCoo, I guess. I love them. But Be Here Now, Harrison, inspired by a poem that Sir Frankie Crisp etched in the clock tower of his estate, the Friar Park, the 10 acres estate, the monastery estate that Frankie Crisp bought, I guess, in the late 1800s and built it in 1898 or something. So just amazing. So here we have it, Living the Material World. It just had a 50th anniversary. This song just had its 50th anniversary. and it's Record Store Day Song of the Year. So I think I covered what I wanted to cover, but when I go back over, I'm sure I forgot something. But this record transcends time. It's timeless. It's a poem set to a delicate acoustic arrangement, upright bass, organ, subtle drums, very delicate guitar, and the guitar comes out really well on this remastered, I believe from 2024, remastered on 45 RPM. So pick it up, go back and visit the song here, pick this up, and remember, be here now. I hope everyone has a great holiday weekend coming up. Be here now is a great way to live, and Harrison talked about that 50 years ago, and we forget how intense, how spiritual he is, and we all miss George. We miss George as much as we miss, John. So we're just blessed to have this record now. If you could pick it up, try to pick it up on the secondary market. I believe it were 2000 made. Maybe it'll be reissued. I'm not sure, but Dark Horse Records, George Harrison, Be Here Now, and Beck's on the flip side. So thanks a lot. Everyone stay well and be here now. Ciao.